have a quorum. So welcome to part 3 of our series on learning how to drive or how to deliver value through IT. This week we're going to be talking about simplifying software and licensing. It's been a great series so far and looking forward to the conversation today. Presenting today, we have Jeff Sheely, Solutions Architect with Diversified. Also speaking, Zach Duncan, our IT Subject Matter Expert with Diversified. And then I'll serve as your moderator, Director of Sales for the Intelligent Technology Solutions. As we go through the day, we'll have the opportunity to ask questions live, but please go ahead and feel free to enter questions into the Q&A chat session as well. Just make sure that as you're doing that, to alert that to all panelists, because the ones speaking may not have the opportunity to answer or see that. I'll be looking at those and collecting those as we go. Today's agenda, we're going to cover Diversified overview and the issues with licensing today by Zach Duncan. Following that, Jeff Sheely is going to go over the EA process within the CISCO ecosystem and give the ins and outs of that, and then we'll follow it up at the end with a question and answer. But again, as I pass the mic over to the different presenters, we'll pause and give the opportunity for live questions. Although everyone is defaulted to mute, you have the ability to unmute yourself and ask the question when it's time or for that. So I'll pause here and say, are there any questions about how we're going to go through today or the topics at hand? If not, I'm going to pass this on over to Zach to give us an overview of Diversified.
Thank you, Nathan. Glad to be here again doing this, and I hope people see the value. We will get into that later. But a real quick Diversified overview, founded in '93, second largest AV integrator in the world. You can see our revenue target for this year is supposed to be $1 billion by 2020 is a projection. 300,000 monitored endpoints across our 3 network operation centers on the East Coast, one in New Jersey, one in the DC metro area, one in Atlanta. And we have people all across the country and a very high customer sat rating. So we can go in and, consult design, source the hardware solution, install, and manage it on the back end. And I really think that's what separates us from some of the other competitors in the market. Here's our nationwide support. We have 32 offices in the U.S., headquartered out of Kenilworth, New Jersey right there. So we have a relatively local office that can support your needs, no matter where you may be. Here are some of our IT-specific industry certifications. You see we can help across the entire stack, and we are well vetted and knowledgeable in all areas. Contract vehicles, we know that not everyone on this call is a federal customer, but I am on the federal team. Jeff Sheely is not. But one of the important things that you have to do when working with the federal government is make sure that you're utilizing the right contracting vehicles and allowing procurement to check mark the boxes they need to, whether it be, a GWAC government-wide acquisition contract or utilizing a small business. We have the ability to do that no matter what your needs may be. Divisions. We have a one hand to shake philosophy at Diversified. We like to say we can do everything except put the nails in the wall for you. And some of the ones that really we want to highlight today are our Intelligent Technology Solutions group, which Nathan, Jeff, and I are a part of. Think, the OSI model, layer 2, layer 3 technologies, cloud, stuff like that. That's what ITS represents. And we've also got all these other divisions that can help you with all your needs throughout the enterprise. So if you've joined us for our first 2 parts of this series, we're really not trying to just push new solutions or hardware. Not trying to show you something fancy. We're trying to solve problems that we think people across the IT industry are experiencing, whether that be federal, commercial. And today we're going to do the same thing. And we also wanted to highlight that we're not just an AV integrator. We're a total technology solutions provider. So the problem we want to address today is licensing and licensing management. And that is what we're going to hit on. And I'm just going to address some of the issues that I think people are having in that arena. And then Jeff Shealy is really going to go and talk about how with a CISCO enterprise agreement, you can address those issues and problem areas and hopefully make your life easier. So what are the top software management challenges? Asset management. So you've got a bunch of legacy on-prem equipment from multiple vendors. People are moving to the cloud, so you have these hybrid environments, and all the licensing is getting more and more complex, and you have to figure out when it's going to renew from multiple vendors, manage the cloud, and that is really one of the problems that we're going to address with the CISCO Enterprise Agreement is asset and license management today and how to make that much more streamlined and easier for you. Compliance. I was talking to a CISO the other day. He said 80% of his budget is spent on compliance. And specifically with license compliance, entitlement, what user gets what device gets this license, what does this license allow me to do? That's something that can be very convoluted, and we think that CISCO Enterprise Agreements address that specifically. Managing contract terms. Tell me, I know from personal experience, I had a customer call me last year, and their CISCO SmartNet and licensing was going to lapse in 24 hours. And they were like, we're a federal customer. We can't have that. What are we going to do? So it turned into this firestorm, and we had to call CISCO, get them to extend it. It was a big mess, and it wasn't necessarily the customer's fault, but because licensing is so complex and you have all these licensings and products in the cloud now, it's hard to keep up with that sometimes. So there really needs to be a way to simplify that. And then mitigating and managing additional software fees. The true up, hey, vendor A says you did this. That's extra than what you actually paid for, so we're going to have to go back and charge you more because you're using more of the features than you originally signed up for. So mitigating and managing those additional software fees or the true up where you have more allocated than you planned in your budget is really scary for some people. Enterprise agreements are going to address that and make that less of a headache for you. And then management and optimization. How can we make licensing easier? You log in, see all your licensing, get everything co-termed on the same date so you don't run into these issues because it can be overwhelming. That's what we think we're going to address here today. And we think that these 4 or 5 aspects are problems that every customer faces with licensing, especially CISCO equipment, where people have CISCO all over their enterprise across several solution sets like route switch, wireless, unified communication, telepresence, etc. How can we make that easier for you, make it more streamlined? That's what we're going to talk about. So the answer, and I don't want to steal all of Jeff's thunder here, next generation volume licensing agreements. I think that Jeff is going to hit on all these: flexibility, improved contract terms, entitlement management, value-added services, and additional options in pricing and payment terms. So maybe you want to do this as an OpEx expense instead of a CapEx expense. We are going to address all of that. So with that being said, I'm now going to flip it over to Jeff and let him tell you why CISCO Enterprise Agreements address all these problems that we see our customers facing.
And before we do that, we'll pause for a second, too, to open up the mics to anyone that may have questions on what Zach's covered so far. All right, Jeff, it's over to you. You're on mute, Jeff.
Thank you. How's it going, everyone? Solutions Architect Jeff Sheely with Diversified. Going to go over CISCO's enterprise agreement. Zach, thanks for starting this off and getting us going. So some of the stuff we're going to talk about is going to be collaboration, security, the analytics, the cloud. Try to take you from what, where, when, and how from an enterprise licensing agreement. So CISCO software provides flexibility and agility by enabling customers to consume the CISCO technologies in a way that best works for you. Not just buying the system or hardware that comes with the software, but also having the option to choose whatever software suite is right for you. It'll also give you the option to deploy it in a way that you want. And that could be on-prem, it could be cloud, it could be managed service. You could also have the option to purchase with flexibility that suits your needs. And that could be perpetually, it could be as a subscription, or it could be an enterprise-wide license. So buying ahead for future years and paying over time. In a sense, basically an ELA is how people consume and not just a product. So some of the customer challenges that we're going to focus on. So the first thing is going to be complexity. You know, with how complex it is to manage software today, you know, what can we do to make that easier? How can we standardize? How can we consume and manage it? How can we streamline it for the IT budget and your spending? And then we're going to move to lack of agility. So right now you see it as not being very flexible. And, you know, how do we access the software to even get our license? How can we simplify that process? Value. How do you future-proof and accelerate adoption of software and maximize the business impact? We're going to talk about that value and how to get value out of the licensing. And then compliance and management. You know, how can we spend less time tracking down our license and usage and compliance and stay current on your licensing and services that are up for renewal? So we'll go into all of those individually and how we can address them. So one of the ways we address those problems is CISCO's enterprise license agreement. You can have a multi-year agreement that can be enterprise-wide to entitlement to all CISCO software and services. So it can be simplicity, it'll be ease of management, it'll also be agility, being able to access it and generate those licenses quickly, and then future-proof value. So we'll get into each of these individually. So simplicity. What we plan to do is by standardizing the offers across the network, also across collaboration, across security, and then analytics. And then we can provide you an improved product and a better outcome. We'll show you how that the CISCO Enterprise Agreement can provide a blanket coverage for software and support across the enterprise. And then you don't have to go box by box. Normally you buy software or hardware coverage every time you buy the gear. In an EA environment, you have the license already, and as you upgrade to new hardware or buy new hardware, you don't have to purchase that with each box sale or each software purchase. And then you can do a single 3 or 5 year contract to try to line up your billing so that these cycles are predictable and you can eliminate multiple purchase cycles. And then easy renewals. So that makes the operational overhead low. So agility. What we mean by agility and how we're going to help solve some problems is access to the broad set of applications and your EAs to provide a quicker response time. Consumption flexibility, trying to move at the speed of your business needs and not just on an as-needed basis. License transferability across physical and virtual and cloud infrastructure. And this will help you minimize service disruptions. And as I mentioned before, as you upgrade from one hardware platform, say wireless, older 5508, you're upgrading to the new 5520, instead of having to purchase brand new license and manage when that's purchased, you upgrade the hardware and you port the license over at no additional cost, and no licenses are required to be purchased. And then open procurement options, so financial flexibility, and we'll go into a little bit of that with OPEX, CAPEX, and possibly using finance for some of this. So ease of management. So having a self-service, an ELA workspace, so you can go in self-service and fulfill license. So it'll make rollouts faster. You'll get alerts for expiring contracts to try to help you minimize disruptions and be proactive in your renewals. And then real-time view of entitlement and consumption. So you don't have to guess or go get spreadsheets and track down, when does this device run out of service? When does this software run out of support, and so on and so forth? You'll be able to go into the portal and see real time how much of the license you've consumed, and also how much you're entitled to and when it's up for renewal. So it'll help you with your audits and things of that nature. Okay, value and future proof. So with an enterprise agreement, we're trying to future proof and provide more value than just purchasing the hardware and software as you go. So we're going to investment protect all of your existing software. And then another thing that this includes is a 20% growth. So if you buy, let's just say, an enterprise agreement, and we're talking collaboration, and it covers 10,000 end users and devices, you have 20% growth on those 10,000 users moving forward without having to pay additional for those. So you can grow within that time period of your enterprise agreement. So you're not locked in, and you do have a little bit of wiggle room. And then let's say when it's time for renewal, it's an annual true forward. So you true up, let's say you grew over 20%, or right at 20%, you true up, and there's no retroactive charge for that 20% growth. So it's included, and you just true up from, a certain point in time moving forward. And then software lifecycle management makes it a lot easier when you're managing those software licensing and such as that within the portal. Okay, so what can you buy as an enterprise agreement? So we'll start out with CISCO One. And CISCO One software will include your data center networking, your data center compute. It'll also include WAN, routing, switching, and then access switching, and then wireless as well. For collaboration, it'll have your unified communications, your WebEx, on-prem as well, and then multi-party calling, voice and video, customer collaboration, prime collaboration, and you'll also have Spark suite options, which today WebEx and Spark are combining, so some of this will be included together, but it's all considered part of the collaboration enterprise agreement. And then we also have security EA, where you have email security and web security, advanced threat, next-gen firewall, ICE, all of these, and it also will include the new and latest security releases that CISCO has moving forward. Now, another part of that EA, and you can buy those as individual silos, or you can purchase the EA across the whole product suite, so collaboration, enterprise. networking, which is Cisco One, and then security. So you can bind all of those together or buy them individually as ELAs as well. So ELA life cycle, trying to make it simple and standardize this so that it's easy for you to keep up with it. So at renewal, it'll be easy to renew the ELA because you'll know what you've consumed and what is available, and it'll be seen in the portal. You can see what's in use, and then at purchase, you can choose software suites, count all devices or users for entire organizations, and then purchase 3 or 5 year ELA with upfront or spread payments. And then service could be included in this. And what they mean by spread payments is obviously going to be Cisco Finance. And then deployment, we're going to consume software license from ELA WORKSPACE. So any department, any geo, up to 20% growth, and that's key. So some software companies will try to get you as you grow. They make you pay back what you have grown and use more than what you had originally purchased. Well, with Cisco, that's not the case. So you get that 20% growth, and you have the capability of truing up and then paying forward. So you don't have to pay that true up. You just pay from the new point in time moving forward with the growth included. And then real-time monitoring of that system. So software management before and after the ELA. And I've talked about that single pane of glass a couple of times previously. And, you know, right now you have multiple contracts with a bunch of different terms, no visibility. You have to look at spreadsheets, and it's a very manual process and going back and forth. So after, you know, you have one contract on a term, you single pane of glass for visibility, and then it's going to show you the growth allowance and the true forward. You're free to focus on whatever you feel is important, whether it's growth, efficiency, and it'll allow you to respond quickly to any changes you need from a licensing and consumption perspective. And here's a quick look at the ELA WORKSPACE. As you can see, it is Cisco Portal, Cisco Software WORKSPACE. Within this, you can see the ELA, and you can generate license at different levels within this. It shows you your license consumed. It shows you your start and end date, and it'll also tell you your ELA type. And you'll get this across all suites that you're a part of an ELA in with Cisco. So it makes tracking this very easy and understanding where you are from a usage and number consumed, and you know when it comes for renewal, everything will be in one pane of glass, so you'll be able to track it easier. So the latest release of the Cisco ELA is 2.0. So we're trying to standardize cross-architectural standardization across all verticals, whether it's collaboration, security, or Cisco One, full coverage across the whole entire organization, not just one location, but all locations. So multi-site, centralized management. It'll allow you to have predictability for your budgeting and pricing, and then having a strategic multi-year relationship, and then providing maximum value so that you're able to get the best money for the software and services that you're paying for, and able to see that in one pane of glass to optimize it and show what you're using now and what you've grown to over the life of that ELA. Any questions?
All right. Yes. Thanks, Jeff. We'll open it up for questions. There's quite a few in the portal, but we want to give anyone the opportunity to ask questions live as well. The first question that came in here, question is, with a Cisco EA, is licensing portable across hardware if I buy new devices?
Yes, that's absolutely true. So if as I stated before, if you buy a new router, you don't have to buy the license with it. It'll be moved from one platform to the other. So if you're on the 3900 series routers and you buy the new 4000 series routers, the license will port over. Same thing for wireless and collaboration and across the whole suite of products in every vertical.
Nice. Thanks, Jeff. Next question. Let's say I have a Cisco UCS, Catalyst 3850s, Nexus 9Ks, WebEx, and Cisco Wireless. Can I combine all of my licensing across this suite of products into an enterprise agreement?
Yes, you can. So how you would do that is instead of purchasing an EA for a particular vertical and separating this, what you do is you combine all of the verticals into one EA, and all of them fall underneath that one EA. So no matter what product or solution you're trying to license and provide that enterprise agreement for, you can move those devices from the old license to the new on the new hardware at no problem across any of the verticals.
Okay, here, let's see, this next one might be good for Zach. Can Diversified provide the hardware via multi-year agreements as well?
You're reading our mind out there. So if you join us next week, we're actually going to talk about how we can take your Cisco hardware, enterprise agreements like Jeff has talked about today, and then managed services on the back end and wrap that into one consumable package for you. So your network's now a service, right? And we can help you provide that all into one consumable package to not just streamline and make your licensing easier, but your whole IT infrastructure. So great question.
Fantastic. There's one final question here. What is a Cisco Smart Account? I recently got one for my licensing portal.
So Cisco Smart Account is what you use to manage your license. It's a new product from Cisco. They've released this, and you will tie in your enterprise agreement into your Smart Account. So if you have license previously, they'll be in there, and then your EA will be in there so that you can see and manage it as well. That was a good question.
Fantastic. Well, we don't have any other questions in the portal. Anyone out there live that spawn any thoughts there? Well, from there, we just want to say thank you for joining us today. Thank you for all the participation and attentiveness to the presentation today. Thank you to our panelists, Jeff and Zach, for bringing the great information to us. Don't forget that we'll have the fourth and final part of our series next Thursday. We'll be covering IT managed services. We appreciate all that you do for us, and if you have any questions in the meantime, please feel free to reach out to Zach and or Brooke. I'll leave their information up here on the screen as we end today. Thank you, everyone, for joining.
Thanks, everyone.